Welcome back to the Fiero Project. Today we are going to have a nice conversation with James Brown of what's the name of your company, James Brown?
P-Body Motorsports.
P-Body Motorsports. And then, as everybody knows, the one, the only, the mythical, the Fiero Jesus, Michael Shane Wilcher, which every time I say his
Thank,
name, I have to put an accent on it. So, Michael, you had a car built by James, right? At least an engine.
yes, James. Uh, just a year ago, before the 40th, he built he built my engine. He did my swap. He built my harness. He built the exhaust. I pretty much just took the car to him and dropped it off. He pulled the old engine out. Somebody came and picked it up and gave me like 200, 250. I don't know. They made it worth my while. But anyway, yeah, James did the whole thing. I mean, I did some prep work, what I could with like parts. Like I refurbished some suspension parts and a cradle. I tried to have things. I tried to make it as painless as possible for James, he can do the whole thing. But I tried to have like a cradle ready, so when he dropped my other cradle, he could put my engine on my refurbed cradle and go from there. So, but yeah, I recommend James to anybody. He's just, everybody knows him for his harnesses, and I don't think he'll ever want to focus on swaps. But if you can convince him, I highly recommend him because he's down to earth. Uh, he will do whatever he can to make it right. And, his knowledge, I mean, the experiences that he has in making harnesses and in other uh, forays into hot rodding, I mean, he's a wealth of knowledge. So I was blessed to have the guy live so close to me here in Tennessee.
Yeah, and I have one of your harnesses as well that I put in my first car. I haven't completed that project yet. And then I think I know a couple other people with your harnesses, and they turn out great. So you do really good, precise work, which I think a lot of people are looking for. Not something just thrown together, but very precise, new ends, new connectors. Just a really good product. What MSW? What is that? That's an 88, isn't it? What all did you have done to the engine?
Yeah, the swap car's an '88. Uh, we didn't go inside the engine. James did gaskets, resealed everything. We didn't go internal. Um, I mean, really, it's just a 2000 Regal GS engine out of a wrecked car. I bought it for 100. I got the entire front drop for $100, suspension and all. Had about 80,000 miles on it. But James went through and detailed everything, painted everything. We put ZZP P logs on it. Uh, I did upgrade to a Gen 5 supercharger, uh, North Star throttle body, but we didn't go inside. He didn't go inside the engine, best I remember, James.
No,
We
no.
didn't do
Cam or anything like that.
No, James knew from the start that what I was looking for was a cruising car.
Yeah.
I didn't care about massive horsepower or racing other people. In the end, I want a good cruising car that's reliable and has that fourth gear, which all of us factory Fiero guys at some point or another wish we had that extra fourth gear if we're in an automatic. But other than that, we didn't do anything to the engine. James, if there's anything that I've left off that was done, let me know, because sometimes I forget.
You pretty much covered it all there. You pretty much covered it all.
So
That's basically make sure it was a dependable engine, went through, no oil leaks. Wilcher brought me ton of parts, everything with his little touches with the greasable cradle mount points, and he brought me a lot of stuff that really helped make the swap a lot smoother. Done some pretty good work.
Yeah. I think I've even got a part on that engine, don't I? Then I give
Uh,
you, was it the throttle or the thermostat housing?
well, actually, if I'm not, you may have given me one, but I would have modified it, and I'll guarantee you.
I thought you sent it to
Uh,
me modified, and I powder coated it for you. Oh, well, no, there it is.
this is being saved for a fact for probably my 87 or my other 88, because I had to cut up when I received yours. I would have had to cut this thing up because we did the modification and did the filling on the backside of the engine. So I didn't want to kill your work. It's beautiful, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's being put to good use. So so James, let's get on. We've heard all about the car you built for Michael Shane Wilcher. So I kind of have a set of questions. We're going to go back and forth here. I really like to do these, especially with people that have services that they offer the community, because it gives everyone a chance to put a face with the name. You didn't make it to the 40th, so that was a missed opportunity for a lot of people to meet you. Not everyone can make it. Totally understandable. So how long have you been into Fieros? What got you into them? What does that story look like for James?
I guess, I test drove one back in high school and really wanted one back then. Of course, I didn't have the money to buy one. Several years went on by, and I guess along late 90s, I was actually running a car audio shop. I run it for probably 15 years. And the guy across the parking lot from me on the motorcycle shop, there was always 3 or 4 Fieros outside. His whole family drove Fieros. And I always remembered I ended up with these 85 North Star swapped car, the one that actually got me into the Fieros. I wanted one from the time I saw this car. And at the time, I was competing in DB Drag SPL contests, and we had went to World Finals 2 or 3 years in a row. And I come back from World Finals, and I never could break the plane that never could get up in the top 5 or something. I was always eighth. So I come home, and anybody that's ever done that on a professional level understands there's a lot of money involved. I run like almost 60,000 watts on 415s, you know. I came back, pretty much stripped the whole van, and the guys working for me was like, "What are you going to do now? We're going to rebuild this." I'm like, "Nope, I'm buying one of those," and pointed at the Fiero across the parking lot. So talked to the guy. He lives in pretty local. I talked to him. He had an extra Fiero that he was willing to sell me, so I bought it and found me a 3800 and done my first swap. And here we are, 20, 22, 23 years later. A lot of changes over time. I've still got that original Fiero sitting under a tree.
That's the story all over the world, right? There's a lot of Fieros sitting under trees right now.
There's a lot of them, exactly. But yeah, that kind of started the whole madness, and a lot of changes happened in life, divorces, etc. So went and got a job, closed my business for a few years, and kind of started slowly getting back into the Fiero community, which I've never been. I was always there. I was always a lurker. Back on Penix, I remember in the early 2000s, I didn't comment a lot, but I'd always, I'd read up there every day. I was hitting Fiero.nl, checking it out, seeing what was going on, seeing what people were talking about, and kind of with life and everything kind of changed and got away for a little while and come back and got to talking to a bunch in the community and made a few friends. And one day Stephen Poe just asked me, says, man, you work a lot with street rods and do a lot of wiring and stuff on those. Can you build a harness? I was like, well, yeah, I can. There's, no problem in that. So I built him one and everything worked out okay. I had him, there was an issue or two. And finally one day he says, man, I'll tell people that you build harnesses if you want me to, and you can start building them for the community. Of course, at the time I kind of thought, yeah, man, I can build 3 or 4 a year, no big deal. It's just a side hobby. And it just whirlwind from there.
Well, yeah, there was a real need for a reliable harness builder in the community. We had I also been around for quite a while, started in the late 90s, early 2000s on Pennox as well. I think my membership says I joined in 2000 or 99, right there in the beginning. And seen a lot of people come and go. Like there's a guy with initials LR down in Texas, had a company, Fast Fieros out of Dallas.
Lloyd.
He screwed a lot of people over when it came to harnesses. And there's been other people that have built good harnesses, but not reliably, offered them. So there was a huge need for it. So I think you fit right in there at the right time, in the right place with great quality, because, that probably comes from your audio background, making sure all those wires are right, connected properly, put away, run well, like that. That speaks a lot to that. So, yeah, that's awesome.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I want to give people their money's worth. I want to, people put their time. These are not a have-to things for most of the people. They've saved their money. It's something a lot of them, I talk to a lot of guys, it's between father and son project, or it's the project that's been on hold for the past 8 to 10 years, or something they dreamed of since they were a kid. And I have the pleasure of being part of that for a lot of the people. And, I want to give them something that's dependable, something that looks good. I want to route everything to where if installed properly, they're not ashamed to open their hood at a show. I want to give them something. I want to give them the best possible base I can.
Yeah.
What they do from there is on them, but I try to do my best for them because I'm honored by each and every one of my customers. I'm honored to be a part of their project.
Let's see here. You talked about your first Fiero.
My first Fiero was a 87 GT. Done a 3800 Series 1 swap.
Oh, was it Supercharged Series 1 or just?
It was a Supercharged Series 1.
You don't see those everywhere.
I've still got it.
Yeah, it's sitting under a tree out back, right?
Sitting under a tree, exactly. Maybe one day.
That's the hashtag never finished, right?
Well, you can ask Wilcher there. I've got a yard full. A handful of customers' cars and a handful of my own.
That's the curse of the Fiero. You have a yard full. I think I'm up to 1 or 2 sitting around myself. So
yeah, we're in Tennessee. It's kind of a status symbol. The more cars you got in your yard. We're just trying to keep the weeds level with the rooftops.
Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
And James, this is a multi-part one, so I'm hoping it'll just, once you start talking, you're going to connect however you want to. In the past, what has been your neatest project, and maybe not the neatest, but what's been your most challenging project that you've worked on? So you got two there, neatest and most challenging. I don't know, they may be the same, but if they're not, tell us about them.
Well, as far as Fieros, probably your car was a big challenge. And what I'm working, the couple I've done I've had a lot of challenges. As far as the neatest, man, there's been a lot of projects. There's little cool things about each and every one that I could mention. Currently, my biggest challenge has really been juggling everything for one, but with the purchase of the old Held Motorsports, working on trying to get some of this back to market, trying to source a lot of the stuff that's been discontinued. It's been an ongoing project with these cars because it's really hard to say, man. There's just been so many different things. Yeah.
Well, let me stop you there. Let me throw this out there at you.
Okay.
Looking back and off the cuff, name me one, maybe two of the projects that you've done that you felt like were the most satisfying, and why.
Probably one of the first ones I done right after I got back into it and started doing the swaps for people. I done a little 308 project for a guy, swapped a 3800 in for it. Everything just kind of went smooth. The car had set for almost 20 years, but there wasn't, it's just a basic swap. We cleaned it up, put it together. That was a project I had fun with. Of course, I was working a full-time job at the time as well, but everything rolled smoothly back on it. That one, and probably your car minus the time crunch. We were targeted for a show that we actually got everything in, but there was still an issue or two that you didn't get to make that show. And then the 40th was the next. That's probably been the biggest challenging, was due to the time restraint of just trying to hit these deadlines. I'm working on my first turbo swap. That I've learned a lot from this car. I've learned I'll probably just stick to the 3800 supercharged myself, leave the turbo to somebody else. It's been a fun one, to say the least.
So what makes the turbo so much more challenging than the 3800?
Really mounting the turbo, especially when you want to keep most of the trunk. You don't want the turbo in the engine bay. Biggest thing I run into this one was oil feed issues. It wouldn't drain back to the pan. The turbo was too low to clear at least the top part of the trunk to have good flow back to the pan. So I actually ended up having to add a oil reservoir for it to dump off into, a little lower than the turbo, and then a scavenger pump to pick it up from there. The turbo car has probably honestly been my most challenging. I've learned a lot from it, but yeah, it's about ready to go home. A couple little issues we had, biggest thing is just stay at it and find, I'm learning on the turbos. That's really been a big challenge to me, has been this turbo car.
Well, I got another when you're done, James.
I'm good. Yeah,
along with engine selection, transmission, and I get a lot of slack from the manual crowd, which that's fine. It's all in good fun.
No, it's not.
I
It's serious.
myself,
It's serious.
yeah, well, it's some
don't like
serious
driving
slack.
manual. What's wrong with you?
But counseling has done me well. But I want to ask, because like I said, when you did my swap, I had an 88 5-speed car sitting here. And that was originally the car I was going to have you swap. But I don't like a manual as much as I do an automatic, because I just like to cruise. And at the time, that was probably the biggest deciding factor between the two cars that I had swapped. I did not want to ruin a 5-speed factory 88 car. I had an automatic car, and that was the determining factor. But tell us a little bit about transmission options. And I don't know how much you've dealt with them, but I know I've got the 4T65 HD, and it'll be more than I will ever need, because I'm not going to over horsepower it, and I'm just going to put around town. But tell people, give us a little insight, or just talk to us a little bit about transmission selection on a swap car, how that might affect the swap.
Really getting into the automatics, I mean, that the 65E is really your only option of anything. I've seen a lot of people are starting to do the 80s in some of them for the higher horsepower builds. I don't think it's been completely worked out. You know, I think a lot of them are using aftermarket controllers, etc. I don't know that I would go that far just yet. I guess if you're going for an all-out build, you know, just wanting as much power as possible, that may be an option. It's not something I've really considered myself. Pretty big, pretty heavy transmission in the 80Es. Manuals, you have a pretty good selection, actually. You know, you can go anything from the Cobalt F23 to Cavalier F23. Only drawback to the Cobalt F23 is you essentially have to buy two transmissions. You buy the one from the Cobalt, and then you got to buy the bell housing off of the Cavalier. You know, a lot of people stick with the stock get rag. It's really all going to be dependent upon what you're doing with the car. You know, if we all wanted the same thing, everything should be cookie cutter, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of the people in the community have almost made the 3800 swap a cookie cutter swap. I mean, you can order, you know, if you can't make it, there's somebody out there making those parts. You can buy those parts from somebody. And I mean, the transmissions have really gotten a lot more, you know, with other guys making the brackets for the Cavalier, and then you got the other guys making brackets for the Cobalt F23. So, you know, just a few months ago, it was kind of hard to find many people making brackets, or, you know, at least stuff that fit. But a lot of people stepped up the past few years, and it's all available. I mean, it's just going to depend. You know, I've always had automatics in mine. Can't really give a rhyme or reason to it because I love driving manuals. But most of the time, if I'm cruising through town, I don't know that I want a manual. Now, if I'm out on a windy, curvy road, it's hard to beat a manual. I guess your best bet, if you like a lot like that, is just go ahead and build two. We're gonna get that manual 88 in here from you, Mike.
So have you
it's coming up soon.
Have you gone down the road with the 6T75 yet? The Scope and Special?
I absolutely have not. I absolutely have not. It is something, you know, I've seen some talk on, and I don't think from what I've read on it, I don't believe the computer's going to control it. You're going to have to go with a standalone TCM. probably going to put a lot of the people out of the market on it. It's, it's not cheap, but
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good option to look into. Uh, I'm slowly veering away from doing the actual swaps myself anymore. And I'm not saying I won't take on one here and now, every now and again, but I have a couple still on the books to do, and I'm really wanting to focus on the fabrication side. I want to really focus on the suspension products and try to get it going. That's kind of hard to do with trying to keep up with harnesses and do swaps and everything else. So we may try one later on down the road.
That actually rolls into the next question Michael asked
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I was about to say you couldn't have segued any better than that. While we're on here, James, tell us about P-Body Motorsports. Tell us about your company, your endeavor. Everybody knows you from wiring harnesses. You're one of the go-to, if not you're my go-to. I mean, I tell everybody there's other people doing harnesses out there, and they work. I've seen your harness, and you're the harness that I push. But there's other out there to buy. But you're not just doing harnesses, and you've done other stuff in the past. But I think here recently, within the last year, you've gotten a little more. You've gotten focused on offering products other than the harnesses. So if you can, just give us a few minutes of tell us about P-Body Motorsports, what you're trying to do, what you're looking to do, and how people can get a hold of you and see what you offer.
We've ventured down a few different roads. So, we've stepped up. We started doing a lot of the conversion AC lines. I'd worked a little while on custom adapters to offer a complete new system. That's not been very fruitful. So currently, as long as I can get the manifolds from the customer, I can replace the lines and add the high pressure side adapter. The suspension has really been the biggest difference that we're adding. I've got 20 sets of polyurethane mounts, parts for them. So I'll start doing the transmission and front engine mounts. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks, I'll have them in and welded up. Still waiting on some poly. I've got a company out of California making custom poly for me. We've been doing some coilovers and stuff. Some of the smaller stuff with the suspension work right now. I'm hoping over the next couple of months to have the pre-88 bump steer kit available. Me and one of my helpers that's been helping me put all the metalworking together, he's been helping a lot, and I've got him looking into a few different options for me. But hopefully by the end of the year, that'll be available. And then we're going to be working on the 88 front coilover suspension. And I wanted to do with the pre-88 as well, but with the whole slalom kit, it makes more sense. I've got to build my way up. I'm not a big money man. I don't have big investments, or don't have the availability to make huge investments. But we're slowly doing little parts of the suspension at a time to build up to eventually have the full, previously known as Held or Raw Motorsports, have it completely back on the market under the name P-Body Motorsports. But the mounts and stuff, the polyurethane mounts and everything, I think that's going to be a big thing for a lot of people. I know a lot of people done Rodney's, and with Rodney slowly wanting to get out of the community and sell his business, there's a lot of open market there. Nobody's doing the adjustable dog bones. I've actually got the dies and everything to make them. I started on them, didn't work out too well, but I'm waiting on a tap for a lot of stuff, but those will be available within the next month. I've made up a couple. They've kind of come and gone, used them. But that's mostly it. Really going to focus on the suspension. Next 2 to 3 weeks, I'll be launching my web page. I'm gonna get it up and going. That way, on most of the parts, I'll have them in stock. Whatever I do have in stock will be available on there or available to pre-order. Just like with my harnesses, I don't require any payment on them up until they're almost ready to ship. When the suspension comes, there's going to be a lot of changes. I'm going to have to kind of make everything flow a little better because right now it's a struggle. I work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and I'm getting a little up there in age. But we just got to keep hustling it and try to keep going and keep these cars on the road. Always looking for new ideas for new products. That's, I don't really know what else to say other than that. We're just trying to do everything we can to keep them on the road.
Yeah, there's going to be, I think, a vacuum as Rodney steps back. I really wish he would come to terms with somebody. I know I don't want to dig into it too much, but I know he's been trying to sell it for a while and just can't settle on it with somebody. I really wish he would, but I think as that winds down, there's definitely going to be a vacuum because I don't think he sells, I mean, absolutely tons and tons of stuff, but what he does sell, some of those things are pretty niche items that you can only get from him.
Yes, yeah.
The 88 rack kit and some of the suspension parts and the adjustable dog bone that you're going to be working on. There's a bunch of those unique parts that you can only get from him. So you kind of talked about your company and some of your products. I got a question. Being as that you were into sound as much as you were in your previous life, have you thought about doing any sound things for the Fiero?
Maybe in the future, but
Yeah.
nothing right now. I've got a full plate right now, just trying to do the basics of this P-Body Motorsports with my suspension stuff. I'm really wanting to get that out. I get a lot of emails, a lot of messages on it. You never know what's going to come down the road.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I haven't worked on a few things with that or got a few ideas and whatnot. That may be possible, but that's on the back burner right there. I think there's too many other things out there that we really need to get going first. But that may be down the road.
That's another thing that Rodney has is the factory replacement subwoofer. One that's reliable, will work and go in its place, as well as the rear B pillar speakers that they will fit and work with the trim. You don't have to. Okay, do I need to get this one and take this one back because this doesn't fit? Is it going to pop out the grill? All of these things. So I mean, there may be an opportunity there too, especially with your vast knowledge and sound. Like, do you have a go-to speaker for Fieros that
Nah,
brand or anything like that, or have you just not paid attention to it too much?
not really paid that much attention to it. I haven't messed with it much. Basically, after leaving the audio scene, I kind of hadn't really looked back.
Oh, that's fair. A lot of people do
I
that.
spent a lot of time there with that, and I just I left that one a little bit. But that's not to say something won't come up available. That's not to say that I won't get back to it if I feel I need more than what's going on. I'm always open to suggestions, but it's not been really much I've delved into yet.
Yeah.
I'm ready for my next question when you're ready. James, tell us, and I want to hear Jesse's answer to this as well, and I may answer as well. Your favorite year and model Fiero.
Yeah, I know. I hear it so many, everybody, it's always 88. I'll be honest with you, the one I've always wanted, and I will have one day, and it's a desirable for the year, but I want an Indy, 84 Indy. That is probably my favorite. Uh,
Wait, are you just trying to get brownie points with Jesse here?
no. Actually, I forgot you are building one. I want an 84
number
Indy.
11. Number 11. Yeah.
Number 11. Really?
Yep. I picked it up. What was it at the 40th? It's got a whole cool story. We're gonna have to do a whole video on it, but it belonged to some very historically significant individuals at
Oh, wow.
and
That's
including the president of the union at the Fiero plant. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, it's a really cool, unique car. And some cool history with it. So we'll have to get into that on another day. But yeah,
I might say
bit.
that's probably going to be one of my favorites. That, or if you want to go to the aftermarket, we'll go to the IMSA wide body. I'd take an IMSA wide body. Other than that, I know there's a big thing between the 88 and pre-88s, so don't spend your money on the pre-88, and then the other one, I like all the Fieros. I don't care. The year don't make that much difference to me. But if to narrow, I'm gonna narrow it down to two. I either want an IMSA wide body or I want a pace car. Those would probably be my two. Probably never have a pace car that would be, much more than a driver, because I don't want to build a car that I can't drive.
Yeah.
But I always kind of thought if I could do a pace car, we may look into more with like the K24 or the Ecotech swaps, because I'd want to keep it a 4-cylinder. I probably couldn't find the parts to ever build the Super Duty that, don't know that I could ever afford that. But when that time comes, and maybe one day, I'd like to keep that car a 4-cylinder. And the K24's never been a big Honda fan at all. Yeah. But the swaps, it's different. It looks promising. The Ecotech, keeping the GM family. They're making good power out of a lot of the Ecotechs. Never know. Always looking for something a little different, I guess that's what draws a lot of people to the Fiero in the first place.
I want to put a TDI VW diesel in one so bad.
Did a guy do that?
So you're going to build a harness for that. You're going to build a harness for that, James.
Just plug this up. It works.
Yeah. So my favorite, that's a really tough question. So I think I'll do it like this. In 84, my favorite's a pace car, because I think a lot of people don't realize how close that car was to not happening. It was on we could do a whole show on the pace cars themselves, and I think we may do that. Get Fred involved, a couple other people, but that car was very close to not happening, and it's pretty amazing that it did. 85, my favorite's an SEV6. It's the first formula. I love that car. It's the only bumper pad car that came with a V6. It's an 85 formula. I think it's unique and different. You don't see them. 86s is it would be the 4-speed GT. It's the only fastback GT 4-speed in it that happened. I just like that 4-speed. 88 I would have to go blue. I love the blue 88s. My dream car is a blue 87 GTT top, but that will probably never happen. There's very few of them.
We got people out here running blue 87s, you know?
Oh, listen. Let's not talk about. Well, this has been a nice conversation. And then I think one of the most beautiful cars ever made was a silver 88. That 88 all silver GT or Formula. To me, that's one of the most beautiful cars ever made. And I'm not a fan of the yellow, but that 88 silver, all silver Formula, silver GT, to me, that is one of the most beautiful cars ever built. So that's kind of, those are my favorites. That's why I've ended up with so many Fieros over the years, because I love them all. But if I had to break it down, like, those are my favorites and why. What about you, MSW?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite. I have favorites for different reasons, like the 84 notchback red. That's the poster that I had on my wall in the early 80s, along with my Return of the Jedi posters or Empire Strikes Back poster. You know, that's the car I loved. But, you know, as the years passed and I would get old enough to drive, I couldn't afford one when they came out. But when the fastbacks came out, I didn't know what sexy was, but that car was. And just the shape, the simplicity of the shape, and it's just a smooth, simple design. And, you know, for that reason, I love any fastback, 80, 86 own, the shape of that car. I love it. Of course, I love 88s, but I know, you know, parts. So I have a couple 88s. Sentimental, my 87. It's the first one I bought. It's a fastback GT. I found it here local. You know, I had not had a Fiero ever, and like 6 years ago, found this 87 local for like $2,500. It was the maroon and silver, and there is just something about that paint combination. To me, it's almost the archetype Fiero. If you look at the entire run of Fieros, that maroon and silver, to me, is the archetype. It's a beautiful combination. My car looks nothing like that now. It's got different colored panels on it and such, but it's a beautiful color. But that's my sentimental favorite because it's the first one I bought, and it's the one that my dad pulled the engine on and kind of went from the heads out, kind of refreshed it, and drove it to Carlisle in 21. So, yeah, I can't pick a favorite, but I can narrow it down to like 3. You know, but I haven't owned as many as you or James probably in the past. I've only had 7 at this point. I still have 5, 3 that I tag and run. So, and one day I do have a notchback out in the yard. It's not an 84, but I could make a clone out of it. It's close enough. So maybe one day, who knows? It may come down off concrete.
There's enough 84s out there. I don't think you have to clone one. I think you can just get another one. If you need me to talk to Sherry a little bit to grease that wheel out, you know, that's no problem.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Maybe I'll buy a car from her or something, and she'll let me.
Hey, that'll work, man.
There you go. But so, well, you know, we've talked about a lot. We've gone through a lot of things. We've kind of talked about the future, where you're at now, where you're going, where you've been. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I'm really excited to see some of the stuff you're coming up with. I cannot wait. The suspension stuff, really, no one's been working on that except you and Gary. And I think you guys are kind of attacking it in a different way, which is really cool. Doing different things that complement each other rather than fight against each other. And you've got your 3800 space, he's got his LS space, and you guys are I couldn't ask for two better people to be in the community offering services. You know, you guys are great, both of you.
And the Fiero community has blessed us. That's,
Yeah.
I want to make, I appreciate the support of everybody. I'm here, it started out as a hobby and it's grown into a full-time job now that allows me to be at home and do things that I've got to take care of in my personal life and still make a living. The Fiero community has been an absolute blessing to me, and I appreciate each and every one of them, every person out there. That's kind of one of the reasons I'm not always the greatest of help, but I'll help the best I can to just about anybody that asks. And that's due to people like you two and many, I could sit here for hours naming people. I just appreciate the whole community. They've taken me in. I've been in the community many years, but never been as vocal or as public. And I appreciate it. I appreciate the support. Can't ask for a finer group. I've been member of different groups, and the people within the Fiero community are as unique as the Fiero itself. And I appreciate every one of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Shane Wilcher, thank you for coming on and being a translation expert.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Appreciate what you do for the community, Jesse, and holding these little forums so we can, hearing other people's stories. I mean, that's the best. That's easily one of the best things about a community of people who have a common interest. Just the stories from other people, how they got into it, why they got into it. I go to car shows not to win awards. I go so I can hear other people talk about what they love, and we share that love. I mean, we may once we walk away from a car show, we may be daylight and daylight and dark difference, religions, politics, whatever, music choices. But while we're at that car show and we share that bond of this little car that we love, and it's amazing to hear why that little car means so much to other people. I love the community. The community is great. I've never had a bad conversation with another person who has an affinity for the Fiero. Doesn't matter if they believe drastically different from me in all other aspects of life. You can always glean a little something off other people who love the Fiero.
That's well said. So with that, I'll give you guys your Saturday back. I appreciate you spending a little bit of your morning with me, and have a great day.
Thank you, guys. I
Appreciate the time,
appreciate it.
Jesse. Thank you, James. Thanks
Thank
for all you
you.
do, guys.
Y'all have a great day.
Y'all too. See you guys.
I know.
See ya.